So, Heretic. Let's talk about it. A lot of people are giving their 2 cents about this movie, so I thought I'd weigh in. But I want to talk about it in a little bit of a different way than I've seen other people. Because other people tend to give their opinions, but they're not necessarily addressing the reasons that you might go to it. So, let me know if this style works for you, if you like the other style better. I jump between the two, so you can let me know what works best for you. I want to say that I did like the movie. I thought the movie was well done. I thought it was beautifully shot. The cuts between different actions I liked. I liked the settings for the most part. I liked the set dressing for the most part. So I think in that way, it was really good. I very much enjoyed the movie. I thought it was rewatchable. Other people think that it might be less so, but I definitely want to see it again, and I definitely want to see if I can point out certain things that I didn't see the first time. So that's just me. I think it's a rewatch. If you're wondering whether Hugh Grant works as a horror villain, I think he does. And I think that this is his genre of the type of horror that this movie was. I remember him being in a bunch of rom-coms when I was younger, and he was a heartthrob. And I never got it. I actually was quite annoyed by his characters. There was the odd movie where I didn't mind, such as Love Actually and whatever, but I found that in this movie, which is more dialogue heavy, he tends to do well. I don't think he would be as effective in other types of horror, but in this movie, I thought that he did a really good job. In fact, there were times in the movie that I had to remind myself of the actor, that it wasn't so blatantly apparent that it was this person doing a role. I really thought of him in that characterization, and I had to remind myself who I was looking at. So I definitely think that's a plus. Do you want a movie that'll make you spill your popcorn? Do you want a movie that has a lot of spooks and things that make you jump and spill everything everywhere? This is not the kind of movie for you. I thought this movie was creepy. I didn't necessarily think it was scary, but then again, I've watched a lot of horror in my time. So what might be effective and scare you could be very different than what is effective and scares me. I will say that this movie does a very good job in being creepy and building tension. So that was very effective. It just wasn't kind of like a jump scary, spill your popcorn type of movie. Do you like resolution in your movies? There are some movies that don't explain things, that just go with whatever plot they have laid out, and it's up to you to derive meaning. It's up to you to decide whether certain things were true or certain things weren't true or whatever. This movie, I feel, did a lot of explaining, resolved a lot of things. Not everything for sure, and you can just watch it and enjoy and not have to be in your head so much. This movie might be a good pick for you. Would I suggest that this movie is shown at a party? Not necessarily. I mean, it's dialogue heavy. So if you want a movie that you can put on in the background and you don't have to really pay attention to, and you can enjoy each other at the party and whatever. I don't see it as that kind of movie. However, if you're together with some friends and you do want to watch this movie and everybody is kind of invested in kind of watching the movie and not the party so much, not being rowdy and interrupting everything and whatever, then I would say that this is a good movie for that. I see this movie not so much in the fun vein, but I do see it as something interesting to have companions around and watch and see what each other thought. Do you like comedy in your horror? Some people do, some people don't. It is a tactic that a lot of horror movies use to break up tension and to bring levity after a severe event. This is not that kind of film. Although I did find a few things comical, I don't know if they were intended to be comical. It was more so in one situation that I wasn't predicting that conversation or situation was going to happen. And in other times, I'm not sure if things were supposed to be more comical than they were. I I don't know. But it's not a comedic movie. You're not going to put this movie on and it's going to let up. I found that it was pretty consistent in adding layers to the tension. And it didn't let up with that tension until there was good reason to. Did the movie do a good job in making me forget its runtime? I think it did this very well. I was not aware of the time. It wasn't a short movie. It wasn't a long movie by any means, but it wasn't a short movie. And when I was watching it, I never once was like, okay, where are we in this film? I feel that the pacing of it was pretty good. Are you a fan of lots of dialogue in your horror? If so, this is a good movie for you. It is very dialogue heavy. And if you like that kind of tension building and that kind of creep factor that involves lots of dialogue, this is definitely a movie for you. If you require a lot of action and slasher-esque type horror, I wouldn't say this is your horror. I would say that this is more along the quieter, creepier, dialogue heavy horror, more psychological than actually being gory or horrific. What was most effective for me was the sense of isolation in the characters. So I think that they did a good job of this. I was very much aware of the characters becoming more and more isolated as the film went on. I became more and more aware of the tension building from that. So I think that this movie did that the best. Who would I recommend this movie to? Okay, so I think that this is a good movie that a person can appreciate whether they're kind of newer to horror or more seasoned in horror. I thought that the themes of this movie, which are more on the religious based, that's not for everyone, for sure. But I think that you can enjoy it without a lot of horror experience. And as much as I think that the topic they don't really dive down super deep in, I think that it's a type of horror, and or rather, it's a theme of horror that I don't see that much. I see a lot of possession and a lot of religion coming into play for from things like that, but I don't see it quite like how it's presented in this movie. So I do recommend it for a person that kind of wants a little bit of that dissection and that novelty. I would recommend this also to a person that just wants to dip their toe into horror, that isn't ready for a lot of things that scare them. Because I found that throughout the movie, you are pretty sure what you're gonna get. Not that it's necessarily all that predictable. I mean, some things in all movies you can predict, but if you're new to horror, you might not. And for a person that just wants to kind of dip their toe into something that's horrific, I would definitely recommend. I would not recommend this movie to a person that wants an escape. There are some horror movies that are more monster movies and whatnot, and in your brain, you know that these kind of movies are less probable to happen. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I've never seen a monster under my bed. Um, so if you want that kind of horror, I would not recommend it. If you're a person that sees an antagonist in a horror movie and can relate them to actual people in the world, and that is a trigger for you and whatever, I would not recommend this film. I can see there are people in this world similar to this person that's the antagonist for this film. And as much as that's not a deal breaker for me, there are other people that might not be fine with that. It might hurt their worldview. So I I wouldn't recommend it for those people, but I do think that it's good for someone that doesn't have those concerns. So I'll wrap it up there. That is my opinion after going to see this movie. If you choose to see it, let me know what your thoughts ended up being for this movie, and let me know if this style works for you. I hope you're having the best day that you could be having in the situation you find yourself today, and I'll talk to you later.